This is the fictional mindbender. I just caught Dune Part 2, and I have so many thoughts that I may have to do more than one video on it. But having said that, I wanted to address how I saw its portrayal of what I like to call the devil messiahs. As everyone should know by now, the Dune books are about Frank Herbert, its authors, cynicism towards charismatic leaders and, in my opinion, any institutions that they may represent. Most people consider that religious institutions, but I would argue that it can extend to other ones as well. Like I said, lots of thoughts. That said, within the universe, this cynicism does not just apply to the Atreides line, but also the Lancerat group of nobles who rule the galaxy, and the Bene Gesserit sisterhood as well, who are manipulating everyone else. All of these are using their power and charisma to manipulate others into getting what they want or to some other end that they withhold from their followers and the people under them. The movie's portrayal of Paul's descent into this role mirrors, I think, two other characters from two other franchises who follow a similar pattern: Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars and Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. All three of these tragic characters embody this trope of the prophesied and long-awaited hero who displays all the signs that they are the one to lead their people into paradise or victory or whatever they're struggling against or trying to get to. The one who is supposed to embody their values of righteousness and justice and everything that is good in the universe and or the world. But what makes these messianic figures different from the common messianic tropes, like, say, Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, or Neo from The Matrix, is that rather than overcoming the tribulations that come with the role and embracing it willingly, devil messiahs are reluctant heroes, if you can call them that, who end up becoming crushed under the burden of the mantle they have been foretold to bear and end up doing very, very, very horrible things. Being the one is not a blessing or a crusade that they want to take up, and if anything, it oftentimes sends them running, and it should. Look briefly at the three characters I just mentioned. Anakin was foretold to bring balance to the Force and destroy the Jedi's sworn enemy, the Sith. Yet, for most of his pre-Vader life, while having quite the ego, avoids embracing that title directly and is content with just being the Jedi hero of the Clone Wars and a family man in secret, but nothing more. Yet Anakin is forced into that particular role by others who recognize who and what he truly is, in particular Palpatine, who then uses him and manipulates him into trying to save his family, and through that process has him kill most of the Jedi to accomplish the Sith interpretation of that prophecy, where instead of bringing balance into the Force, it tips that balance to the side of the Sith. And this process not only results in the almost destruction of the entire Jedi Order, but the loss of his wife and a lot of his friends in the process. And this is not to mention the countless thousands of others in the galaxy who suffer under his role when he becomes Darth Vader. And then we have Eren Yeager, the young protagonist of Attack on Titan, who starts out as the revenge trope of a fiery path to destroy all Titans on his home island of Paradise Island for killing his mother and wanting to attain true freedom for himself. However, as the series progressed, it is shown that he has instead been manipulated all this time by forces way outside of his control to assume the role of the savior of the Eldians by annihilating most of the world population, a role that he slowly recognizes but tries to avoid because he never wanted that, despite the fact that the world hates his people and what they represented as potential Titans. Yet, despite that desire, Ymir, the first founding Titan, his future self through the powers of the Attack Titan, and the choices of Marley, the nation that has been oppressing Eldians for a very long time now, along with his own Survey Corps High Command, funnel Eren into becoming that monster that most of them felt that he needed to be. Paul Atriedes not only joins this tragic podium of would-be heroes/villains, but is arguably the founder of that trope, given that given that Dune came out way back in the 60s. A young boy groomed to take over House Atreides on their homeworld of Caladan, who had been manipulated before he was even born into having powers being far beyond those of normal humans thanks to the Bene Gesserit's breeding program. And according to the film, because he was part of a failed project in the Atreides bloodline, he was deemed to be eliminated along with his entire house by that same group, as well as the rival house Harkonnen and the Emperor of the known universe as well. However, Paul survives and foresees that this path that most of these people want him to go on will most likely turn him into a genocidal monster, and tries to avoid it, even while fighting in the Fremen's guerrilla war against the Harkonnens in Arrakis' deserts. When Paul eventually realizes that this path of damnation is going to lead him down south, he refuses to follow, even when his Fremen allies call him to a war council which is located in the south of Arrakis. All this being thanks to another outside force pushing the mantle on him, the arrival of his cousin, Thade Harkonnen, who reorganizes and revitalizes the occupiers against the Fremen rebellion and ends up pushing them out of the north of Arrakis. Wherever he turns, Paul literally has everyone and everything telling him to go south and awaken his powers so as to free the Fremen, defeat the Harkonnens and the Emperor, and avenge his family. This includes his own mother, the Fremen who now follow him as either a messiah or a war chief, and his own spice visions as well. And ironically enough, it is only the final push of his lover Chani, who had been against the idea of a Fremen messiah in the first place, that finally pushes Paul into following down this road. Even though Chani had not wanted him to become a messiah, but just to meet up with the war council because the Fremen were meeting there, her push into having him go down there is what eventually leads them into becoming the monster that he later becomes, as well as their own apparent separation. All these forces funnel Paul, like with Anakin and Aaron, down a path to become a monster in order to achieve their destiny or some sort of higher goal or purpose that had been ordained for them, as it were. For Anakin, it was turning the balance of the Force towards the Sith. For Aaron, it was the freedom of his friends and the Eldian race against the rest of the world that was prejudiced against them. And for Paul Atriedes, it was to save the Fremen from the now impending doom that Thade and his uncle now represented, and avenge his family for what they did to them. The Devil Messiah trope has become more popular in the cultural zeitgeist through these examples, and honestly, I find it a bit frightening. And I think that the Dune franchise is just the latest harbinger of this new menace and interpretation of the Messiah trope. But having said all that, what are your thoughts? Do you think that Paul Atriedes had a choice to not go south and perhaps find another path that he had not seen? Do you think this concept of a devil messiah holds as much weight as the typical messiah trope, or do you think that it holds more? Let me know in the comments below, but otherwise, this is Fictional Mindbender, and you guys have a good day.